Hello, this is Frank McDonald, Instructional Officer for Secondary Science in Socorro Independent School District. And what I've done is created a webinar to kind of show you how I take a look at data that is given to us through Eduphoria. What I want to do is be able to show you a process that I go through that it will help you kind of group your kids for any intervention or enrichment that you may have coming up. Saturday schools, after school tutoring, super school, intercession, that kind of stuff. Um, we will be using the spring benchmark data that was finalized as of Tuesday, February, or Monday, February 25th. So let's get started. So we are on Eduphoria, and I'm just going to log in here. There we go. I am going to go into Aware, and I just want to give you a heads up that your view may be different than mine. I think if you're just a classroom teacher, you should have each one of your individual classes, and then you should have an All My Students button. If you are a Sky Coach, then you'll have more access, and it might look a little more similar to mine. I'm going to stay here on the Analyze tab, and I'm going to go to Quick Views. The process that I'm showing you, if you are a classroom teacher, can be done individually by class, by section, or you can do it with all your students, and I'll show you kind of a way that you can have all your classes all in one shot. So I'm here in Quick Views. I clicked on that. I'm going to go to District Benchmarks, and I'm going to go into 2018-2019. I'm going to use 8th grade as this example. So I'm going to go into 8th grade. I'm going to click on Science, and then I'll click on the Spring Benchmark. I'm going to stay in student scores here on this drop down, but I'm going to pick a campus real quick just so it's a little bit easier for me to go through. If I don't pick a campus, then what happens is I process all 3,000 8th graders. So what you see when you click on this is we want to get this student view that we're looking at here. So in this case, there are a few things that I'd like to alter before I go into the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on Edit. As I wait here for edits, there we go. Edit is going to take me into 3 tabs. Now, classroom teachers may not have the edit tab, but you will have your individual classes, and you will be able to do everything that I'm going to do here. Sky Coaches should have the edit key, and they can help you with this if you want to run it through their version, but you will be able to run it through your own version. So when I click on the edit key, I have 3 tabs here. I'm going to go to Summarize, and in the Summarize tab, I am going to take out, actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this in, and I'm going to show you most likely what you'll see. So I'm going to go to Columns, but I am going to add a couple things for myself. So under Columns, I am going to add Testing Campus. No, Testing Campus is already there. I'm going to add in Testing Instructor. So this is more likely from my view. Everything else that we have there should be fine. Actually, let me go back. I'm going to go back. I am going to take out the economic disadvantage. I'm going to take out the gender. I'm going to take out the ethnicity. And so these are kind of the 2 major subpopulations that I want to be able to take a look at. So now that I've done that, testing instructor, check. Testing campus, check. I have my approaches, meets, masters. I want to leave that in there. I'm gonna update it. And what we should see now is now I can see who the instructors are. They're over here. And I'm gonna print this to an Excel spreadsheet. Now what I did was, I should do this and I'll open that, but I'm gonna open up another sheet. So I kind of preset a sheet, and I took care of names of students and the student ID numbers, as well as the campus and the teachers, changing the names to protect the innocent. So this is kind of the spreadsheet that I would end up with. I have my student name, my local ID. Here's my special ed indicator, my LEP indicator, my raw score, percent score, my approaches, meets, masters, the date taken, the testing campus, and the current instructor. With yours, if you were to add in the testing period under that edit key, it would also give you what period these kids are in. So that can help kind of whittle down or focus the attention that kids would need in each class. Okay, so here's our spreadsheet. Let's begin. So the first thing I want to do is let me expand this a little bit so you guys can see all the tabs that I need you to see. So here we go. Do it. So we are in Excel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight. So I'm going to left click and drag everything that I want to include, all my data here, all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to click on Format as a Table. So I'm going to click here, and these are pretty much the two that I use. If you need more color in your life, you can choose any of these, but I'm going to go very basic, and I'm going to go with black. So when I click on that, it says, where's the data for your table? And this is indicating everything that I've highlighted. And then it says my table has headers, and my table does have headers, so each one of these titles for each column is my header. So it is checked, so I'm going to click OK. Now once it does that, it leaves it in this gray, but I can go to Home, and I'm going to click on the paint bucket, and I'm going to click on No Fill. So now it'll give it a it fills it in black. Now what we did is we just created a table, and the benefits of this is now I can go through and I can click on one of the drop downs in any of my columns, and I can arrange the data how I would like to see it. So in this case, I am on percent score, and currently we are in alphabetical order by student, but I want to see it largest score to smallest score. So I can click on that, and now you can see that my scores have been arranged from highest to lowest. Perhaps I only want to see, I only want to see teacher A. I can go to the current instructor. I can click on the drop down, and I can select just teacher A. So now I'm only looking at teacher A's students. So this is kind of the basis of the data that we're going to start working with or processing. So now what I've done is I've included all the teachers on the campus. It's still in order from highest to lowest. But what I want to do is I want to find my my SPED students. So what I do is I'll go on the drop down here, and I will unclick select all, and I'm just going to click on yes. And so what that's going to do is that's going to give me all my SPED students. So you can see right here all the yeses. And what I like to do is I like to highlight their student ID number. I'll highlight them all, and I will color them this light. Oops. If I go on the paint bucket, I don't paint the letters. I'm going to get on the paint bucket. And this lightest maroon color here, this red color, I'd like to click it and make those all red. So now I can look at my students, and I know that these kids they have special ed indicators. Once I've done that, I'll just delete this column. So I'll click on it up here on the letter, and I'll right click, and it'll give me an option to delete, and I'll just get rid of it. The reason I get rid of it as opposed to just hiding it is because when I print these out on legal sheets, legal size paper, and you're going to see that you want to be able to try to fit everything in. Okay, so now here are my LEP students, and I will unselect all of them, and I'm just going to look at my LEP students that are coded as LEP. And this will give me all my LEP students. One of the cool benefits of working in a table is I can sort by color. So what I'm going to do is I clicked on the drop down here. I go to sort by color, and I click on that. So now I can see these are all my LEP students, but these kids are double coded. They're not only LEP, but they're also SPED. So what I like to do, if I've already colored their student ID, I'll color in their name, and I'll go to this blue color here. And the blue reminds me of the blue folders that the LEP students will have. I color in those because they're already colored, their student IDs are colored, but now these student IDs are available, and I will color in those blue. Once again, I can go up to the top, and I can delete these. So there we go. Now students are ranked from highest percent to lowest percent, and it's a quick view to see which students are LEP, which students are SPED. So I can see that pretty quick. If I want to just see my SPED students, I can, or if I want to put them in some sort of order, maybe I want to filter here and I want to say, okay, show me all my LEPs. So here are all my LEP kids. This is based on that column right there. I can unsort. I can clear the filter. There we go. So here are the kids. All right, so now here's the next thing I want to do. I don't necessarily need this date taken, so I'm going to delete this column as well. There we go. So now we have my campus and my current instructors. Now I'd like to color code these following the same predictive model coloring pattern that we use before when we're predicting which kids will do well on the test or how we think they're going to do well. So what I'd like to do is I go into the master's grade level and I unclick no. So what that does is that gives me all these kids here which have mastered. They got the 3 S's. Yes, yes, yes. And with the predictive model, that is a orange. So then I go back to here and now I unclick yes and I click no. And I go into the meets column and I unclick no. So now I can see that all these kids here, they all have 2 yeses. And the color that I'll use for them is green. I will go back here, unclick yes, and I'll click on no. I'll go into the approaches category and I will unclick no, and I'll be left with just the kids that say they have 1 yes. So I will highlight all these kids. The color I'll use for that is yellow. There. And then finally I will click on just no, and this will give me the group of kids that have not approached on the test. So here we go. And I will color code them red. To undo these things, I can go back to the filters and I'll just select all, and that'll expand the columns. It doesn't delete them, it just kind of hides them. And here we are. And I can put them back into order again from largest to smallest, and you can see that now we have our oranges, we have our greens, we have our yellows, and we have our reds. Okay. Part of the cool part of this is if I just want to look at teacher A now, I can look at teacher A and I can see the students in teacher A's class that are orange, green, yellow, and red. If I want to look at teacher B, I can go select teacher B and I can see the orange, the green, the yellow, and the red students, a smaller number of students. And if I look at teacher C, I can see teacher C, and teacher C is most likely a SPED teacher. I got 3 reds here. So let me put those back in. So here's the part that I like to take care of. So what I'll do is I'll click, I want to insert a column here, so I'm going to click on the H, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click on insert. You can see that it gives me the opportunity to insert a column. But what I want to do is I want to see the, how do I want to do it? I want to see the percentage to passing, or a percentage to approaches. And then I'm going to click on the I, and I'm going to insert another column, and I'm going to do percentage to meets. And I'm going to do a third column, and that will be I'm going to do percent to masters. Okay, so I don't want this orange in here, so I'm going to highlight all these cells, and I'm going to click on the paint bucket here. I'm going to put no fill. But while they're highlighted, I also want to right click on this, and I'm going to format these cells. And I want these cells, when I do, I'm going to put in a formula, but I want the answer to come out as a percentage. So I'm going to just click on percentage, And if it has decimal points behind it, oh, you know what? We won't need decimal points. I'm going to click it down to 0 decimal places, and I'm going to click on OK. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to use this lead forward, www or https://leadforward.com, and I'm going to go to the resources page. Under the resources page, I'm going to go to performance standards, and I'm going to scroll down to spring 2018, and I'm going to look at the raw score conversion table. So I'm going to click on that. And on the raw score conversion table, I'm going to have my science. Let me blow this up a little bit for y'all. I have my science and my grade 8, and it's going to give me the percentages of meets, or approaches, meets, and masters. Now, these things they do change. And if they change, it will be a slight variation. So last year, right before the 2018 STAR test, these numbers, the percentages and the raw score, this is the raw score, we'll work with that here in a little bit, they changed by maybe one question. So they can alter, but it's not big enough that we're way off the mark if we use these numbers. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to approaches, and I see that it's 55%. So I'm going to create a formula. And in order to work a formula on Excel, what you need to do is you'll go into the initial cell, and you will hit equals. Now it knows that you are creating a formula. So I'm going to take that 55%, and I'm going to type that in there, 55%, and I'm going to subtract the percent score that the students got. And all I have to do is go over and click on that cell, on that first cell. Now I have it set up here, and all I have to do is hit enter, and it's going to figure out all my percent to approaches here. Now you can see these kids are in orange, so they are already beyond approach. As a matter of fact, the top students here are negative 39% percentage points above approaches. So you can see all the greens, we have these negative numbers, all the yellows are negative numbers. But once we get into red, now we can see that there's a positive number, and this is the percentage that they are away from getting to the next level. So you can kind of see these kids are 2 percentage points. There's probably one question. If we look at the raw score here, we can see that 20 is passing on this particular test, and 19 is failing, is not approaching. So you can see that it's about 2 percentage points per question, give or take. There's some math involved. So let me go back up to the top, and we're going to do this again. And I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to go check my reference sheet again. So for meets is 71%. I'll go back here. So I'm going to type in 71% minus the percentage score. And there we go. It fills in all the categories. So we can kind of see that now these are the kids that approached, but they are 2% away from, 2 percentage points away from going to the meets. So you can see we have a pretty decent chunk of kids that are not too far away. And let's do this one more time. We're going to go into the masters. Get this right. Let me check my reference sheet over here. So I'm going to go to masters, which is 83%. So I'll type in equals 83% minus 94, and it'll fill it in. And now I can see that these kids were right. All these zeros were right. They're right at the right passing point, 30 or 83%, and these kids are 2 percentage points away. So I'm going to do the same thing again, but I'm going to use the raw score. So let me create 3 more columns. Insert. And this time, instead of percentage, I'm going to say number to approaches. And I'm going to do this again. Insert a column. Number to meets. right click on the letter, and then insert column. I'll click on the title. I'll click number to masters. So because this year's test, the spring benchmark was an altered version of the 2018 STAR test. The reason it was altered is because of our streamlined TEKS. So we removed questions that were pertaining to content that was not going to be covered anymore. So now, because we did that, we can't use, they changed the number of questions on the test, so we cannot use the numbers that are here on this document, on the raw score conversion table provided to us by Leap Forward. But what we can do is we can kind of go look at the raw score here in this column to see where those changes are. So we're going to say that if you needed to get to mastery, in this case, you needed a 30. You needed a raw score of 30. If you wanted to meet, you needed a raw score of 66. If you wanted to approach, you needed a raw score of 20, and anything below 20, any raw score below 20 did not approach. So we're going to use these three numbers, 20, 26, and 30. They aren't accurate, but it'll give us an idea of where these kids are at. So if I go to this, we said we're doing the same thing. In this case, well, let me do this before I do this. I'm going to highlight all these, and we don't want percentages this time. This time we want numbers. So I'm going to highlight all the cells, and I'm going to format cells, and I'm going to go on a number. And I don't want any decimal points, so I'm going to leave it as is, and here we go. So they should be formatted. In this case, I'm going to go equals, and we said approaches was, let's check one more time. If we wanted to approach, we had to get a 20. So I'm going to go back up to my cell up here, and it's going to be approaches, number 2 approaches is 20 minus, and I'm going to scroll over a little bit to get to the raw score cell. So I'll click on the raw score. So equals 20 minus the raw score, and I can hit enter, and it'll do that. It'll run that formula for everything in that column. We can do the same thing. Let's see where meets was. So we said meets was 26. So I'll run the same thing here using 26 equals 26 minus, and I will click on the raw score here, and it'll plug it in for me there, and I hit the enter key, and now it fills in the column. And let's take a look at mastery was 30. So equals 30 minus, and it'll be the raw score. There we go. So this is what I like to do, and this is how you can start to see your groups coming together. So I'm going to kind of shrink this a little bit. If you double click on the line in between, it'll shrink the column to a decent size. And if you're going to print this thing out, you can print it out on a legal sheet and it'll be a little bit smaller. There's other ways that you can do it. I'll show you a little wrap up on how to print. But here's what I'm concerned with. So now I can go here and I can see the kids that are 1 question away, 2 questions away, 3 questions away, 4 questions away, 5 questions away, and 6, and so on and so forth. So now this is kind of where you look at it as a teacher and you know your kids and say, okay, can I get this kid, can this kid work himself or work herself to get 1 more question? And this is where I like the number 5, so I'm going to kind of stick with 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these 5 kids right here, or these kids here that have 5 questions to get to the next level, to get to mastery. And when I look at it, that's 48 kids that I just highlighted right here. 48 kids are 5 questions away on this campus. So I'm going to I'm gonna color them in, and I'm gonna use a purple color. Okay, so you have these 5 kids that are 5 questions away, and I'm gonna do the same thing from meats. So now you have these kids, and you can see a crossover here. These kids are 1 question away from meats, but 5 questions away from mastery. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna highlight these kids all the way down to 5. Boom. And then let's do it one more time with these kids. These kids are 5 questions away from passing. So there's 34 kids here. Here's another group, and these kids are 53. There's 53 kids here. And what did we say this was? We said this was 48 kids. So these groups by far are large enough when you think of campus-wise. So if we were just go to look at teacher A, we can look at teacher A. Well, we can scroll down now and see, well, let's see what the teacher A is working with. So this highlighted group is now there's 39 kids. Now that we can handle that. We can work with that. 39 kids on their way to mastery. If we look here, there's 37 kids on their way to meets, and we have 21 kids that are on their way to approaches. Did I give you the right numbers? Yeah, 37 kids here and 39 kids here. So when you look at it like that, this can be a very powerful tool for both teachers and students. So when I come across here and I tell student number 3, look, student number 3, I'll do this. I'm just going to highlight this kids. Student 3. So here's just student 3. I just went through and I clicked on student 3. Well, student 3 met. Student 3 approached. Student 3 met. But when I show student 3, hey, do you think you could get 1 question better in the next 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks? Well, what's student 3 going to say? Well, heck yes. Not all this content was covered on this test. I think I can get 1 question better. And when you look at it as a teacher, you start to realize, whoa, okay, this is not bad. I've done some things. There's things that have been learned in my class. So it provides a little more fuel for not only this kid, but for the teacher as well. So for me, this is less overwhelming. If I see all these red, I might start to panic here. Like, whoa, I got a lot of reds that I need to fix. But when I look at this chunk of the reds, when I look at this number of kids here, from here to here, I'm like, okay, we can make this happen. Now, part of our struggle and part of our challenges with teaching science and testing in science is that the reading and the math will have priority. So during intersession tutoring, we may not get the kids that are down here trying to go from did not meet to approaches. But I guarantee you that these kids that are trying to go from meets to masters are available. And that's when you create your enrichment group and you give them a letter congratulating them that we have spotted you and we've recognized you as a potential mastery student. And we need to bring you in and push you a little bit further to get you to that point. And when you show a kid this, you're 1 question away. You're 2 questions away. You're 3 questions away. Considering that about 10 other questions hadn't been that pertain to content we hadn't covered yet. This is a great way to motivate the kids to come on in and to get that final push in. So for me, during this upcoming spring intersession, these are the kids that I would want to target. I would want to bring these kids in because we know the other kids may not be available. Maybe I'm looking at a group of these kids here. Maybe I don't get everybody here. Maybe I don't get the buy-in. And even with some of these kids, you may not even look at the top number of these kids, the 1 questions, because you still have content left to cover. But maybe I concentrate on my 4s and 5s. Maybe I'm looking at my 3 through 5s, and I can pull these kids in, and I have this smaller, more manageable group. Maybe we do rotations, and I have a group of mastery kids, and I have a group of meets kids, and we're able to kind of pick and choose these kids, and we push them to that next level. I think this is an excellent way to start to fill in your groups for intercession or for intervention or for any enrichment. If you are at a campus that has teachers, multiple teachers per content area, this would be a great time to expose kids to another style of teaching. Perhaps one teacher explains it in a way that is slightly different and more likely to be taken in by a student. Not that everybody learns a little bit differently. So maybe this is a great opportunity to swap kids and see what the other teacher can do. Maybe in this case, if you do have multiple teachers, maybe one teacher's pretty good at, or really good at teaching one particular area of content, while the other one's really good at teaching another area of content, and now you switch those kids and you go through and you review it. So this is, for me, this is a great way to look at the data, to get kids excited about it, to get teachers excited about it, and you can kind of see where the things that you've covered and the hard work that both the teachers and the kids and everybody's put into this school year. So if you have any question, well, let me go over this real quick, just to kind of clean up things. You can also maybe give abbreviations to things, and it'll make columns smaller, and you're a little bit, you can go ahead and print it out a little bit easier. You can do this. You can kind of see how it shrinks it up a little bit. Makes it a little more manageable. But this is the way that I've looked at data for several years, and I hopefully this will give you some ideas. I'm always hoping people take the stuff that I present and maybe they make it theirs, they make it better. So if you have a better way of doing it, man, share it with us or share it with me, and I can share it with everybody else. So that's it. I've been Frank McDonald, and I thank you very much.